I'm your host, Davida Shensky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. Today's presentation is Why Are They Emotionally Unavailable? 5 reasons it's hard to open up. And this is a common problem in why relationships go bad. And part of it's difficult because someone's afraid to be open and vulnerable, but it's also relates back to the family and the family dynamics and how those relationships play out because you learn how to relate to other people based on the relationships you have within your family. Do you know someone who has a tough time opening up emotionally? Do you find it challenging that they seem emotionally unavailable? It used to be that mostly men were put into the category of shutting down emotionally or being unavailable. Way back in the day, the line of thinking was that if you're an emotional man, then you're weak and too feminine. Thankfully, those days are long gone. Being open hearted and confident in sharing your emotions these days for both men and women is more favored. Sharing their authentic self is actually applauded in many social circles. Still, there are some people who find it challenging to open up and share what's going on in their heads and hearts. They may desire to be open, but the feelings of words just don't come out. There are various theories as to why being closed may occur. So let's look at some of them. 5 reasons people find it challenging to be emotionally available. Some people prefer keeping their feelings inside. Some people simply prefer to keep their feelings inside. They may love to hoot and holler at a sporting event or a game show, but when it comes to sharing their own feelings, they prefer to keep them inside. There's nothing wrong with this either. Far too many people judge others for keeping them to themselves when they're simply being their authentic self by being on the quiet side. Now, if they are stuffing or repressing their feelings and it's causing problems in their relationships, that's a different story. In fact, perhaps they could learn to feel and share what's going on inside. But if they simply prefer keeping their emotions inside and it's on the healthy end, that's nothing wrong with that. Now, here's another thing to think about your personality, the way you communicate, all of that ties into whether or not you're open and willing to express yourself and say what you're feeling. People with a high I or interpersonal behavior pattern are more open and more willing to talk about their feelings. But introverts are more likely to keep it inside. And sometimes, if it's due to what's going on around them and the relationships they're having, and whether or not they just don't want to express that anger, then that is when it's unhealthy. So maybe they fear rejection. There are some people that feel like if they really open up and share their innermost feelings, they will get rejected. Maybe this has happened to them in the past. Some people don't love to put themselves in a vulnerable spot, so much so that they tend to hold themselves back. If you feel like someone wants to share something but is afraid, you can gently encourage and assure them that you will not judge them or reject them for opening up. Show them support and unconditional love, regardless of what they share. After all, we want the same consideration when we share. Maybe they've never learned how to open up. Some people grow up not learning how to communicate effectively. They may not even know how to really sense what they're feeling. This especially happens in homes that are dysfunctional and to those who have experienced trauma. The good news is that there are ways that they can learn how to connect with their feelings and communicate them in effective ways. It takes time and practice, and it may even take a therapist to help, but it's really worth it simply because when you learn to open up and express yourself, then you're leaving yourself vulnerable, but at the same time, you're also helping to build strong relationships. Sometimes the writing in the brain is different. There are some scientific findings regarding men that many are born with one biological difference pertaining to emotions. There is a part of the brain called the corpus callosum, which is responsible for feeling emotions. It so happens that men are born with a smaller corpus callosum than women. What this means is that some men may have a harder time thinking or talking about their feelings at the same time. They tend to be more problem solvers. Have you ever gone to a man with an with your emotions or problems, and instead of getting the empathetic response you're hoping for, you get a just fix it response? They automatically went into fix it mode. Granted, all men have emotions and they can express them, but from a scientific point of view, they may express them differently than women. Some people express emotions in different ways than words. If you're looking for everyone to be gushy and go on and on about how much they love you, or become quite emotional about an issue, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Some people express by giving and performing actions. They might give a gift, take care of a problem that you have, take you out to dinner, or sit quietly with you holding your hand while watching television. Some people may even feel more comfortable writing down their feelings and sending them to you by text or email. If this works for them, perhaps you can give it a chance. I've written plenty of letters in my life that express my emotions for better, far better than if I were to try to convey them face to face with words. Emotional availability. Being emotionally available is a plus when it comes to forming trusted relationships. However, Not everyone is on the same page in this regard. So know that some people have a tough time opening up emotionally for not for one reason or another. And this isn't always a negative thing, so try not to judge it. If you're having trouble opening up emotionally, consider the reasons as to why. Is this simply your preference? Does it cause you problems? Is this what you learned growing up? Do you wish you could be more emotionally available? And one thing that I can say is I grew up in a home where my mother denied my feelings. Therefore, many, many years later, I wrote her a letter and told her how I felt about how she treated me. And all she could say to me was, "How could you say that?" But you know what? I remember crying when I was writing it to her because I know she would never understand what I was saying. That in her mind, she couldn't see anything wrong with what she was doing. And the sad part is, all she was doing was repeating the behaviors that she learned in the home growing up as a child. So remember, that if you want to change many times, you're literally going to have to go and get help because you're going to have to learn how to open up and how to be willing to be vulnerable and showing your emotions.